Yo, this is Lasco the Viking. I just wanted to do one little video about the Viking stuff, even though like I'm not producing as many videos as I did for Descendant and maybe previous epics like Zombie Estate and all that stuff. I'm kind of isolating a bit more, so I'm not going as mad with like all the uploads and shit. But I definitely wanted to give you a bit of like heads up about this mythology in the Viking world, Norse mythology, which I researched for like 1 to 2 months like I always do. I've got a whole battle plan now of how I attack these epics, and it usually revolves around a lot of YouTube, some reading if I can, but basically like just visual stimulus, you know, stimuli. Anyway, let's get started. So I'm going to talk about the creation myth a little bit, which is kind of the origins of the Norse worlds and all that stuff, the 9 realms. And what it was actually Odin, so everybody knows him as Thor's father. Him and 2 brothers killed the father, who was known as Bor. So Bor had a giant missus, giantess, whatever, if you will, because they're all giants, and he was actually the ancestor of all Jotnar. And Jotnar were the giants, and you even see the Ice Jotnar in Thor. I think it was like 1, or yeah, I think it was part 1, you know, basically the frost giants and all that stuff. They're all considered Jotnar. So you have the different realms with the different giants, but they're the main ones, all descended from Bor, okay? Now what's interesting is that Odin and his 2 other brothers, alright, I'm not going to name names, but Odin is the main one because we all know him. They actually killed the father. So they got together and they kind of ripped him apart. It was very, very brutal. I mean, it's the origin, you know, of the worlds of the realms. So of course it's going to be brutal, right? And what they actually did is from his body parts, they created the worlds. So there's like 9 main realms, you know, if you don't know already, all connected via Yggdrasil, which is the tree of life, if you will. So that whole term tree of life, that comes from Yggdrasil as well. Very ancient sort of beliefs and stuff, but the Norse, like, they really like had the tree sort of, you know, in their center. Anyway, so that tree connects all the realms. Odin was the ruler of Asgard, so with his brothers and stuff, they created the realms. The brothers kind of disappear into, you know, history, mythology, whatever. I don't know really what happened to them. I didn't focus on them too much because my main thing was about Odin and Thor and the Vikings, really. So it started off with the Vikings, and it kind of went a bit supernatural, a bit ghosty, and then, you know, obviously I had to incorporate everything, alright? Because I always do that bit of fiction with a bit of history, you know, that's what I like to do. Anyway, so he's there, the ruler of Asgard, and he creates Midgard. So I can't remember what body part of that of Bor was, you know, but it's like some went to the ocean, some went to the woods, some went to the mountains, stuff like that, you know. But he created the human realm, so the Viking realm, if you will, and that's what I'm like talking about now and what this epic project has been all about. So let's go on to his children. So Odin had 2 main children. He actually had a few because he's a god, right? They all did. But let's talk about Thor first. So Thor was the god of thunder. We all know him from, you know, the Marvel movies and stuff like that. You know, the Thor in mythology. I don't know if all the Vikings would have been totally happy with what Marvel did, especially Ragnarok. You cheeky Taika Waititi. You know, you and Marvel, man, you just took the piss with that one. I love it. It's amazing 3D. But the story is not quite right, and even Hell is like, you know, not even represented properly. It's like, it's not even her name, it's like Hela. It's like, what the fuck is that? Anyways, so let's talk about Loki now, alright? Loki in the Marvel Universe, I never liked him, alright? Tom Hiddleston, the actor, I didn't really know who he was, I didn't really respect his background. Then I saw he did Hollow Crown, Shakespeare and stuff. Also I saw him in a lot of chat shows where he does impersonations. Once I saw those, then he was wicked, you know? But we're not there to talk about the human actors, we're here to talk about the myths. So he was the god of mischief, and some say he wasn't actually Odin's real son. He was a half-son, so he was Thor's half-brother. He was, I think, connected with the Jotnar, the ice giants, you know, because you see that in the film. But yeah, he is the one that really brings about Ragnarok, okay? And that's what I'm here to talk about. But let's talk about his 3 kids first. So he had 3 children, alright? He had Fenrir, which was a giant wolf. He was a descendant of all wolves, you know, so every kind of wolf, dog, whatever, that genealogy, that all came from Fenrir, okay? And I'll try to make him as big as I can in my epic, you know, but I mean, we had some troubles. We couldn't really get a model, so I had to stick with the 2D, which wasn't amazing, but anyway, he's a small part. So then my favorite is Jormungandr, who took me forever to pronounce that properly, and he is the world serpent, so he's the one that connects everything, alright? He actually has his whole tail, his whole body wrapped around Yggdrasil. So he is the sea serpent. He is descendant from all of them. He's basically the original OG. And then also my project New Zealand, a Taniwha, you know, which is like a serpent as well, or like a dragon or a sea creature, whatever, is all connected to Jormungandr. And I never had any idea about this, but I even love saying it, you know, because it took me a couple of weeks to get round of it. And then the third was actually a daughter, all right, not an animal, but basically a goddess, whatever, and her name was Hel. So not Hela, like in Ragnarok 3, you know, the movie, Thor, whatever, but she's in charge of Helheim, so the representation of hell and the land of the dead, if you will. So it's their kind of lava, fire, brimstone, all that stuff, okay, that's Hel. But her Hel is with one L, not two. Okay, and I kind of like her as well. She didn't really feature in my epic, but it's mainly just because like I had so much going on and stuff like that, I couldn't have another one. But I am aware of her, and I do like, you know, like the concept. So what I have done though is that she kind of, as raising the dead, that's where the Draugr are. And the Draugr are one of the first things I came across, which are kind of like zombie Vikings, if you will. You know, it's a bit like a vague term and stuff. There's lots of stuff around the Draugr, you know, they can change sizes and all this stuff. I mean, I learned all this stuff. And that's why I have them as giants as well, my epic, if you see here. Anyway, let's go on to Ragnarok now, because Ragnarok is kind of the climax of my epic. And then Valhalla we'll talk about in a second, but Ragnarok is literally Loki's revenge on the earth. And also Jormungandr and Fenrir, they had some beef and stuff with Odin and Thor because they had previous battles, and they actually lost those, so they were coming back. So when Loki raised his children, if you will, they're all in on total domination and destroying the planet really, and then having it for themselves, okay? But let's say, so Jormungandr actually had beef with Thor, so that was the ancient rivalry going on. So that was Thor versus the world serpent, and then Odin was Fenrir's enemy, rival, since they originally battled as well. So, since previously beat by the gods in previous battles, they had a vendetta, and that was against the gods really, and to destroy all men on earth because men are God's creation, right? So Mjolnir is Thor's hammer. Unfortunately, I couldn't use it in my Viking epic just because it seemed a bit too much hassle and I had the Greek stuff left over, so I combined the Greek, you know, weaponry and shields and all that, because that's what the Greeks were all, you know, they're all like influenced from each other really. They look at history and then they kind of mix and match like whatever they want for the religions, okay? So Thor actually defeats Gundyr, but he is bitten, so the venom from Jormungandr actually kills him. So even though he slays him, they kind of take each other up, and vice versa. The same happens with Odin. So he kills Fenrir, but then dies of his wounds and stuff, and they all end up in Valhalla. Now, Hel also releases lava and fire on Earth. Another theory is that because Jormungandr was wrapped around the whole world, he was actually squeezing it and creating a pressure like a vacuum, which kind of brings all the volcanoes up and all the lava spewing, but literally it was fire on Earth. So the representation of Hel, as we know it, the Vikings had the same thing, okay? Now, the only good news is that besides all Vikings and mortals being wiped out, a few people remained in Midgard. So consider the other realms are kind of pretty much destroyed and gone or whatever. They don't exist anymore. But Midgard survives. But in Midgard is what we know as Earth. So it's Earth realm, right? It's where the land of, like, you know, trees and mountains and peace and quiet or whatever, you know, after the Vikings. And they repopulate eventually, and then all those descendants are basically, that's us, so we descended from those mortals, right? So it was mortals and gods were killed off, mortals remained, and then we stayed, you know? We kind of took over, and then that's it. I'm here chatting about it now. Now let's talk about Valhalla, which is my favorite thing. Now when I was doing my Viking epic, I needed one final scene. I was like, what? Oh, Valhalla? I didn't do Valhalla. Of course I gotta do Valhalla, come on. So I had the giants, Thor and Odin, which was pretty cool, you know, I gotta show them in their, like, you know, their giant form. I actually had to use heaven, you know, because I couldn't really find in Valhalla video stuff, or so I had to go with like the Christian heaven, which I'm not really too keen on, but a couple shots were cool, like the flying, you know, angels, which is kind of like Valkyrie. They were pretty sick. You'll see them in my Valhalla extended cut. And then I kind of made a joke out of it because I improv a lot of this stuff. Literally, not so much as dialogue, but when I'm acting, I kind of know enough about the history and the characters, know what I'm doing, so I just kind of feel in the moment. But with Valhalla, it became like a funny joke, really, because the rest is quite serious and dark. but Valhalla I had to kind of let off some steam. So it's like they arrive in heaven, if you will, and then there's no ladies. So the whole thing of like they're not really terrorists, you know, with like all those virgins and stuff. So a couple of the guys were like, yo, where are the women at? What's going on here? I just couldn't help it. It just became like a bit of a comedy skit, but obviously in the final edit, which I haven't done yet, because I'm still waiting for a couple of scenes from Dr. Lopez, one being the funeral scene, and then the other one is the meat hole, which are done in Cinema 4D. So the 3D program obviously takes a lot to render, and it was too hot recently with our heat waves here, so he couldn't actually do it because the computers would be too hot and it'd probably crash, or he didn't want to like put the pressure on them and stuff because they're, you know, high tech and worth a lot of money. But either way, so the whole trick of the Valhalla is, some people say that's where they fight in Ragnarok, but with my timeline I changed a little bit. So the Ragnarok actually happens before Valhalla, so it's the end of the world, and then where do you go when you die? You go to heaven, right? So I don't know how Ragnarok and Valhalla worked, I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's because Loki was trying to destroy Valhalla as well and destroy everything, but as far as I'm aware, Valhalla is the only realm that survived, you know, out of all them. You know, it's not even a realm, it's like the heaven, so it's its own special place. But that was pretty much it. I could go on talking about other stuff like the Pesta and the other research that I did throughout like the ghosts and monsters and creatures, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to focus on, you know, my Viking epic, and that's hopefully giving you a little insight into like why I've done it and, you know, some of the information I come across, which was pretty epic, I gotta say. Alright, but I hope you enjoyed that and taught you something, you know, opposed to me just rambling in my Skyrim rubber helmet. But yeah, that's it, and hope you like Valhalla, hope you like the Viking epic, hope you like and subscribe, and, you know, follow my channel because I've got amazing content. Yeah, I don't have any views, I don't make any money, I'm doing this all for fun, even though this is what I do, alright? This is what I want to make money off, I want to live off that, and especially in the lockdown, you know what we're gonna do, right? Okay, anyways, peace out from Valhalla. Yo, I forgot to do these end screens, so I'm doing them right now, okay? Better late than never, okay? As I always say, that's my nickname. Anyways, don't forget to like, subscribe, all the rest, okay? My channel is up there, you can't miss it, okay? That's why I'm doing these end screens, so you click on stuff, you don't just like jump away from the videos. And don't forget my playlist, like always, I've always got that system, right? Unless it really doesn't work with the end credits, channel, playlist. Come on, support me, man!